Hello and welcome to World Tanks with me, Jack the Ripper, and I have a very special thing to you today. I'm having a Q&A with Carb1de. Carb1de, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everyone.
Right, and so as we all know, there was a rather lengthy video by Wargaming North America discussing some details. Obviously, they didn't answer everything. I think there was a lot of questions that we all had to, we'd all like to find out, and so I'm here to be a pain in the ass and ask those questions. It's what I do well.
Indeed.
But first, let's let's lay some groundwork. Let's sort of some of the things. So some of the base points that were covered in the Q&A with Wargaming North America on their weekly assault. Don't forget to check those out if you want regular update on information. So first of all, we've got contracts earned in PvP. It was something they were quite clear on. It's not a PvE thing, so that's worth remembering. Gold can be used to skip bits of contracts. This can be done to get the complete tank or just parts if you don't want to do it or struggle. You're a bit struggle, you know, if you get stuck on a little bit of a contract. Obviously, we don't know what the full details on that is yet, but if you get stuck on whatever this hypothetical thing is, you can use a bit of gold to push your way through, sort of keeping within the pay to progress situation, I think. And merc tanks are not premium tanks by standard. That's one I've heard quite a lot. Merc tanks will be just tech tree tanks. So that, I think, has laid some nice little groundwork. Anything to add or take from that?
So far so good. The one thing that that you might have missed, but then also because we aren't necessarily public on that, is that it's possible that in the future we could have mercenary premium tanks, but this is still like a bit off, so to say.
Yeah, it's a future endeavor.
Yep.
All right, so let's start off with the first question, going slightly off Mercenaries.
Yeah.
With all this talk about mercs, what else can we see in 4.5 or shortly after?
That's one of those things, because there's a lot of stuff that sometimes slips out because last minute it broke something in the client. So I can't really confirm anything now, but yeah, something might be coming. Maybe it's not. So I really hate being having to basically tease you guys, but it is the situation of development, is that unless we're like 200% sure that it's coming out now, if we're not sure, we're not confirming it.
So kind of, I think a safe thing to say would be that you hope and are trying to get something out also in the same patch, but it's not a guarantee.
Exactly.
Right, let's move on. Do you think there could ever be customization to the merc tanks? Different gun choices, different turrets, this sort of thing?
That would be... So it's always a possibility. So personally, I would like if for this to be one thing that we could, so that we could do mixing and matching of hulls, turrets, and guns, all from within the game client. There's also the issue that, to be honest, I would go with... something along the lines of having, I don't know, a 17-pounder gun on a low-profile tank. Imagine a 17-pounder gun on a T-34-85.
I think we discussed something once with the Comet and the Banshee about the idea of it would have been really cool to see like a 17-pounder on it, but lose the gun depression. Yes. So I think balancing factors like that could be a good idea. Maybe so if we've already got packages, obviously, that limit the things that you can have within those packages. If you had a branch package system maybe for the mercenary tanks, so you could have it so that if you want that gun, you can only have that turret, or as you say with the Comet Banshee idea you had, that it loses the gun depression, sort of things like that. I think an example I thought of was you can either have a Tiger hull or a Tiger P hull, but you get a worse engine to make you more the difference between say more a medium heavy to a more heavy.
I honestly I like that, either that or have a system where you would assign points, so that you have, I don't know, X amount of points to spend on your tank, and then you would have modules, and the modules would have a specific point weight, and then you would basically work within that budget. Still, this is mostly my opinion. I also don't know how easy it would be to implement, and then even if it could be implemented, this would be like far off, let's say, I don't know, 2-3 years, because honestly the main issue here would be to do this and not to break balance.
I think a lot of people would be quite happy to know of plans that long into the future, to be honest. So Yeah, Wargaming North America in their stream, they confirmed that contracts will be there for a limited time, from what you've seen of them, do you think that these will return on a regular basis? And do you think it's actually going to be able to do all of the available contracts at any time in the slots that they're given first time round?
So I think that the contract rotation isn't completely like set in stone, because I think that we are going to have more mercenary tanks that you can basically earn, and those would also always take precedence over previously existing contracts. Now, having said that, I do think that tanks will come back every now and then, because it will get to a point where, imagine that you didn't have time to get all the tank, or you didn't have that one specific tank which you're missing for the collection, and you didn't get it the first time around, and you're basically waiting for it. So I think that they will get back. Now, when it comes to being able to get all of them at once on this first batch, so to say, it's really up to skill and time. I know that, for instance, you and Sins would probably be able to get the first 5 contracts easily. Me, not so much. I already have like 2 which I want, and if I'm able to get 1 or 2 of the others, then awesome. If not, well, next time.
We already know, though, you skew the RNG in people like mine and Sins' favor. It's part of the perks of being a community contributor, of course. As RNG always works in our favor. I've never bounced a shot, you know. Never. It's never happened.
So that's why all my shots bounce. Okay, again, no. I can see it now.
Yeah, we've stole all the RNG. Anyway, with these new vehicles, do you think we could ever see tanks that depend on the package that switch class? So something with we've seen them talking about medium turrets on a heavy tank and TD turrets on a medium. Do you think we could have either you switch the turret or switch the gun in that to change the actual class itself? Because this would add a real unique reason, and it would add something really fun and unique. Well, I keep saying unique. Would add a real depth to them and give more reason to grind them, in my opinion.
Yeah. So in theory, I don't see why not, and it's also good because it does add that extra layer of depth to the game itself. Having said that, I don't know how easy class swapping is to implement within, let's say, a specific vehicle, that you have package A, have it classed as a TD, and then have package B classing it as, I don't know, an RT. So if it ends up being something that's locked to the vehicle, in the sense that in the inner workings of the game, vehicle X is classed as a TD and that's not package dependent, then it might not be easy to, or even possible to implement. But this is, well, it won't hurt to pass it along.
Yeah. Now, something I'm sure a lot of people are interested in is how balanced do these merc vehicles seem to you with what you know so far?
Yeah. So, again, take what I'm about to say with a huge grain of salt, because let's face it, I'm a bit biased. But I think that they are well balanced within their tiers. I do know that 2 of them actually felt a bit too strong, in my opinion. But then again, it's my opinion. And it also doesn't help that those 2 specific tanks are tanks that fit the way that I normally play. So, I don't know, maybe they just clicked for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're all going to have personal favorites from within these things. Like, I know it's a weird one. I personally loved the Edelweiss. It's probably not the best tank in any number of ways, but I personally love it.
It just clicked.
So I assume it's a similar sort of thing here. It's a weird one, actually. I had in my first 40 odd games in the Pershing, I think I averaged 1800 base XP.
Damn.
Hate the tank. Hate it. Don't know why. For some reason, I just hate it. Like, I did really well in it, but I still hated it.
But gameplay-wise, it clicked. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so we know there are different classes within the merc tree, but will they ever be sorted out into a normal tree? Like a merc TD tree, a merc heavy tree, or are they just going to sort of remain like a random spread?
As it is, since you're not going to get, let's say, since there isn't progression from tank to tank, so there is not much sense in, let's say, having it a branch in the classical way, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
I would say no. So it will look random, but there will be vehicles of multiple classes, just that they aren't necessarily ordered that way.
Right, okay. Now, one of the things that was described, and I know it's an interesting point for a lot of people, is new maps. and there was new maps, and the quote for the description was "maps ravaged by war and time." Can you give us any info on how this will be different from the war variants that are already in the game?
So we were prepping this, and I answered something. Now the thing is that I actually saw the maps, so the answer now changes slightly. So the original answer was that gameplay-wise they would be mostly the same, but I did see a couple of them, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to play very differently, and they look very different. So
that's good to hear. Like, I know a lot of people weren't overly happy about some of the war variants, being that they didn't add a huge amount. But it'd be good to see what these can bring to the game. At launch, we'll be getting 5 tech tree tanks, I believe. What can you tell us about these 5 names, classes, what you think of them?
So let's start from the bottom. So we have at tier 4, we have a heavy tank, but it's not any heavy tank. It's called Needle, and it has a Panzer IIJ hull, a Lux turret, and the VT-42 gun from the T-80. So that's actually not a bad pen gun.
Yeah.
So that one is I'm curious about. Then at tier 5 you have Stubbs. So Stubbs is a light tank that has a Chaffee hull, a Wolverine turret, and a 25-pounder gun howitzer. So that's actually one of the 2 that I'm looking forward to.
That could be fun.
With NDA. So tier 6 has the Plague Bringer, which is the Jackson turret, but the one without the roof. And that one is mounted on a Sherman E4 hull, so the one with the torsion bar suspension. And that one is a TD.
Right, okay.
That actually is very similar to the M36B1, which was a Jackson turret on an M4A3 chassis. So then the last 2. Let's start with the one that has been generating a bit of controversy. So Slapjack, because that one has an IS hull, a T-29 turret, and the German short 88 gun. So
it has the short 88.
Yes.
So it's going to get the 140
yes.
Right. See, now I think that's probably actually going to be a lot more balanced than I think people give it credit then. But if it had the long 88, that could have been a problem.
Because
but with the short 88, I can see that working.
Also because it's basically still the T-29 turret model-wise and armor-wise, so even with the mantlet not being as good, it would still be a tough nut to crack from the front. And then the last...
Going to struggle against an E75.
Yeah. And then the last one, which is one of the 2 that I'm looking forward to, which is again a Sherman E4 hull with the Pershing turret, complete with the M3 90mm gun, and it's called Big Top. And that one, I actually played around with it, and yes, I want one.
Yeah, I can see something like that working. I mean, we already have things like the M4 Rev, M/M51 in the game. You know, Tier 8's using a Sherman hull, so taking a Sherman hull up to Tier 7 shouldn't be a problem.
Or at least it won't suffer as much at that as the M4A1 hull does at Tier 8.
Yeah, true. I think that's just HE fodder to most things. Well, in your opinion, how well do these tanks fit into the game? I mean, are they going to be, are they going to stick out a little bit, or are they going to fit right in?
Yeah. So I think that gameplay-wise, they're going to fit in easily. They're still going to be doing the similar roles to what, let's say, conventional Tech 3 tanks do. I think, and again, this is my opinion, and again, I'm biased because it's the 2 that I'm looking forward to the most, is that that Stubbs and Big Top will probably be fitting in better. Big Top does feel very similar to the T20, but with the edge of being a bit taller. Well, it's both good and bad, because then you can shoot over some cover, which for some reason I'm not able to do it on my T20, but then maybe it's just me. And well, Stubbs is just running around and derping people on the sides, or hoping that RNG lets you derp people on the sides. So on that one, I'm very much. I'm again, I can't stress this enough. I'm very much looking forward to getting those 2.
Yeah, derp guns are always fun.
Yes.
And there's a reason why the term is derp. But yeah. So obviously, a quite easy comparison point is contracts are for contracts, sorry, is the PC missions. Would you say that's a fair comparison? Are they going to work like PC
Yeah, I'd
missions?
say that I would agree with that assessment in the sense that it's our version of PC missions, in the sense that those are tasks that you need to complete in order to progress to the next one, and that you have limitation of doing them with specific vehicles. Then in that sense, yes. Although it is going to be, let's say, easier, less. So it's not as daunting as the PC mission system, because that's 75 missions that you need to complete to get the tank.
It can be quite the grind.
Also because you do tend to, and this was what happened to me, is that I basically lost focus halfway through it. So I think that ours are a bit more, are able to focus more, to keep you focused on them. And then there is the part that while on PC you need to do 15 missions on a light, 15 missions on a medium, 15 missions on a heavy, 15 on a TD, 15 on an RT. Here it's doesn't work that way. That you might have one stage that asks you to run TDs from a specific country or heavies, and it's still, let's say, it's doable. It's not as you don't have those five streams. Yeah, maybe streams. You don't have those 5 options running in parallel, which you then need to keep an eye on all of them. So it's basically a single line. It's easier to keep track of what you're doing. Yeah, again, in my opinion.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. I can see that working. The thing with PC missions is obviously it does force you to play tanks that you don't necessarily want to play to get something that you don't necessarily want. So I can see how, you know, something slightly different than that could work quite well.
Yeah.
Now, one of the ones that I've heard a lot about, and I think I know the answer is going to be pretty straight away, is there any form of Mercenaries that's going to be in a separate game or game mode?
Nope. Everyone gets to suffer through them.
Right. Yeah, I think because it sounds the way it looks on the, you know, the World Tanks Mercenaries does almost look like it's a DLC or something. Anyway, with this precedent set, God, I can speak English sometimes, you know. We're stepping more out of, you know, Big Brother's shadow. Is there anything else you would like to see put into the game? Anything you think would be really interesting, that little bit different? I mean, console, as we're always reminded, is its own thing. Obviously, not asking to guarantee anything here.
So that's the thing, because I got my eyes on a couple of things earlier. Well, it wasn't earlier this week, it was earlier last week, which, if we can find a way to make that fit in the game, I would very much like to see it. Now, the problem is that it doesn't have any TA because it was at a really, really early stage, and I also don't know if it will ever get to a point where we can actually add it to the game. If we could, it would be good. It would be really good, in my opinion. Again, bias, etc., etc., etc. But it would be.
Any clues, or it's just the word NDA just gonna have to
Unfortunately, it's like just put a big red NDA flashing on the screen and.
Fair enough. Right. Well, with Merc tanks, it brings the first tech tree tank that can be paid for with gold. Do you think this is setting a bad precedent, or do you think this is an extension of using the free XP on normal tech tree tanks?
So it's mostly the equivalent of the free XP thing, in the sense that you're basically buying out the entire contract. So the skip all stages, give me the tank now. I mean, I can see why people would see the tree and see the gold value and go, whoa. So, but it's literally, that's the, I don't want to wait, I just want it now. It's honestly, from what I've seen, and again, taking into account my my skill level, this skill is like in air quotes, I think it's doable for an average player to get like 1-2 of these easily. Then
I think it kind of links back into what you were saying earlier to do with the amount of time that you have for some of these things. And someone who wants to grind them all out might be on the last day, they've got 2 parts of a contract. I don't know how the contract works, so this is me rough guesswork. Two parts left, and they just need those 2 parts, and then they get the last premium tank. But they're like, they've been grinding for a month. They're really tired. They go, you know what? Sorry, I'll drop the K gold, 2K gold, just to finish this off.
Exactly.
Is it that sort of thing?
Very much, very much. I will say this: it is something that would be here's the thing: if this type of feature was on PC, it's not that I would have skipped the entirety of the personal missions, but there are a few which I look at them and I go, no, never. So I would very much like this to be, let's say, expanded if possible.
Fair enough. Do you think we could see merc tanks used as a sort of teaser? So, you know, a merc tank with a bit of a tank that's yet to be added in it. Obviously, we don't have the Italian tanks, for example. I mean, could we see a merc tank with the Progetto turret?
I don't see why not. Let me just write here on my notes. It's actually a good shot to do it. Well played, well played.
So that's one thing I've said to you, and I've said it in a number of the rambles, is I'd love to see the Italian auto loading system implemented to do things like balance.
Yeah, we have been talking about that one for so long. Honestly, I would very much like to see that happen. Again, this is not me this is not Wargaming talking. This is just Carb1de. If I could get the Italian autoloader system on the Waffle, I would be happy. At the very least, I would be curious to see what impact it would have.
I think it'd be a better balancing system. Yeah. On a similar vein, could merc tanks be used to test out, or at least their parts, which tanks that we've not seen in the game at all? So, for example, I think I've mentioned this tank to you before, the Vickers MBT, which obviously for those people listening who aren't tank buffs, the Vickers MBT is not your standard MBT. Everyone thinks MBT and they think, you know, Challengers and that sort of thing, but this is not. It's still essentially an up-armored Centurion, and so I think, you know, maybe testing it out in game by using a part of a Vickers, say its turret, would be a really interesting way to go. Do you think we could ever see anything like that?
Well, I like the idea, so again, let me take notes.
Fair enough.
Oh,
yeah, no, I think the Vickers MBT would be a great sort of intro to the Chieftain.
Yep, it would be.
I think it fits the concept.
That's the thing, because I tend to see the MBT either as a 10, but then I'm probably thinking more of the Mark III version than the Mark I, so...
Yeah. For people who are watching don't know, basically the Vickers MBT is, you've got more or less a Centurion hull with a bit more armor, a sort of almost Carnarvon-like turret, but a bit more armor, and then it has the L7A1 105. That's why I think it could be worked as a tier 9 with a better rate of fire than the 7.1, but not as good as, say, the AX. You know, some sort of middle ground for fast-firing guns that fire APCR. Yeah. Anyway.
APDS. APFSDS.
Oh, AP... Yeah.
At that point, it's still APDS, not AP... Never mind. we're going off topic, like you said.
Yeah. Is there an endpoint to Mercenaries? So obviously, unlike nation tech trees where you hit a sort of plausibility limit, I know with a lot of obviously things like the Chinese TDs, there's a lot of almost all of those are paper or just made up. But you know, there was some realism to most of the tree. You can't go too far with these things because the game still likes to pride itself on some historical limits. So can you have the same sort of? Do you have the same sort of limits with the merc tree, or you know, is it just as far as the imagination will take you?
So, in theory, there's basically no limit on how many merc tanks we could add. But then, on the other hand, you need to make sure that they're balanced, or seeing from another angle that they don't break tier balance. And as long as there aren't, I don't know, something along the lines of, let me see if I can find an extreme example. Because it's probably going to be something along the lines of, I don't know, a T-29 turret on, what's the German Tier 7 light? So something that actually looks ridiculous, like the
HWK.
Yep. You get a huge turret on a really tiny chassis, and that's just, well...
I think they spoke about something similar on the Wargaming, the weekly assault one. I think they said that they'd actually tried something which was like a Panzer 2J with like a mouse turret or something daft, and they said it just fell over.
Yep.
Which, I mean, I'd like to see a tank falling over, quite frankly. That I think would be entertaining, but not as a balanced feature of the game.
Well, as long as then it can continue moving sideways.
Yeah. On what you can do is you use those tanks as snow plows, and you add a system so that on maps like Himmelsdorf Winter, it moves all those really annoying freaking bumps of snow, and it just disperses them.
No, here's another idea, like a mobile walk. So you're going down the banana road, and then you just drive one of those in the middle, turn them 90 degrees, it will flop over, boom, it's the block.
New balancing features.
Yep. Change the maps on the fly.
Top level competitive play. To be fair, it's basically a mobile sand block at that point if you've got any tanks that are tall enough to shoot over it.
So you do, instead of doing 7v7, you do 10v10, but 3 of the tanks are basically mobile blocks. Well, not mobile blocks, because the moment that they kill over, it's done. This is a terrible idea.
Be funny to see, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, do the difficulty of the contract scale in any way, the way that XP does? So, obviously, a tier 7 to tier 8 is much further than, say, tier 4 to tier 6. So, will the contracts scale in a similar sort of difficulty, maybe?
So, it's... I just realized, because this was the first one that I answered in the doc, so it has like a really short answer. Higher tier mercs mean harder contracts. Some of them are... might actually be on the limit of being too hard, but we'll see. Again, too hard from my point of view. But then again, it's also something like, let's say, if you have X amount of time to do a tier 5 or 6 contract, a tier 10 contract is not going to be the same amount of time. It's probably going to be longer. Well, I hope it's longer.
A bit awkward, otherwise.
No, you have 2 weeks to get, I don't know, 2 million XP. No, God, no.
Yeah, well, the op-on at the moment is quite a difficult one, isn't it? 400,000 in a couple of weeks.
It is a bit harsh. It is a bit harsh.
Yeah. So we've seen crossover with Warhammer on Blitz and now PC. Obviously, we've had Valkyria Chronicles. Apologies to any anime fans if I'm saying that wrong. On console and PC. Do you see any room for more crossovers in the Merc lines? And if so, are there any that you would like to see?
There's one. There's one I'd like to see, but that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, so you're teasing us, basically.
Yeah.
So
it is what I do best.
Can you not tell us because it might happen, or can you not tell us because you don't want to jinx it?
Because there is a very small possibility, but it exists that it actually could happen. So.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
And before I get, once the video goes live, I start getting a bunch of emails asking me. So, but yes.
Okay, how about one that's in your wildest dreams that you never know is never going to happen? What would you like to see?
So here's the thing. I would like this to be tried, even if it's like just once. You know that PC for April Fools did that Battle Royale mode where you could pick up new tanks at specific points.
Oh, right.
What I would like is to have a way that you could literally pick up upgrades, equipment, whatever, as you go. You kill a guy on a Death Star, you get the 183 gun, even if you're running, I don't know, a Lux. Something like crazy, something bonkers. Something that can work more in a more, let's say, pure BR way, so more like Fortnite or PUBG. And not as I mean, I can understand how we did it because that's basically the limitations of the tech. But I would very much yes.
It could be called Tanks Unknown Ground Battles.
Tanks Night Ground Battles. But yes, I would like to see a tech demo for that pick up whatever you want mode.
That would be kind of cool, actually.
It's not as cool as my idea for a battle royale mode for ships, which involved dropping battleships from a C-130. Just that. It's just that.
Those are some very big C-130s.
Yes. No. A regular size C-130. So.
What, like 12 of them, like a flock?
No. They basically are hanging. No, it's not working.
So there's a ship that's about 10 times the size below.
So like the moment that the ship jumps, it just turns into its real size, like out of nowhere. Like.
Oh, okay. So it starts off, honey, we shrunk the kids, but
then the moment that it jumps, it's just nope. I would like to see that once.
Fair enough. But yeah, so what sort of role do you see the Merc tanks having? Like, are these going to be the sort of tanks that are so good that eventually we're only going to see them, or are they going to come out as rare tanks because they're more of a trophy/collector's item, or is it somewhere in between where there's a few epic ones and a few, they're quite good, I would like to have one?
I think that is going to be more like let's say that mixed approach. That some of the tanks at Meteor are, in my opinion, again, are good performers, and those will be played a bit more. Some of the other ones are a bit more niche, so they might not get played as much. Then I would say that then there's always the chance that, I don't know, a tank that you don't think it's going to work for you, it just clicks. And then the moment that it starts clicking with you, then you just start playing it more. So I'm assuming that it's going to be something along those lines. Then again, assuming is always difficult.
Sounds interesting. A number of low-tier tanks are people's favourites, not really for the ability, but almost for its lack of it. I mean, things like the Lux and the Panzer 1C have to come to mind because, we've got the Lux, the considered cute tank, the Panzer 1C, which is just the hilarity of doing... I think it's the only tank I've ever got over 100 kilometers an hour.
Damn!
I have a screenshot of 127 kilometers an hour somewhere, aided by gravity, of course.
Good old gravity.
Are we... yeah, he's a good friend. Sometimes. Are we ever going to see those tanks incorporated into anything in a similarly silly but fun tank idea for the merc?
I'd say probably not, because then I think that most people wouldn't necessarily go for them. That, from the way I see it, that the fun tanks tend to be a bit of an acquired taste. That you only kind of, let's say, discover them because you're doing the regular grinds and you're going through that specific tank, and it just hits that sweet spot that you want. And since for this you don't have to suffer through the tank, so to say, so you might end up kind of not. You wouldn't go for them if they actually existed. Having said that, you made me think about it. I'm kind of sad because I think that the PZ1C chassis with the BT7 RT turret would be like the best thing ever. But
that would be fun.
But
so there's a few interesting concepts going through my head as well, just like weird ones I'd like to see.
It would be.
It'd be interesting to see either way.
Let me make a note, and if I don't try it, it won't happen for sure. So.
And as we all know, I have major influence, hence the Ripper variant of the King Dragon.
Oh, that one. that one was an interesting one.
That coincidence was helpful.
Yes.
Was an amazing set of timing. Yeah. I couldn't have timed that better if I tried.
Very true, very true.
So, the missions on PC obviously do have a similarity, but contracts are their own thing. Wargaming North America confirmed there'll be no platoon-based contracts, though. But do you think we could see that someday? Because I almost think it's a shame. I know some of the PC missions do require, or they are boosted or something by you doing it in a platoon. And I think some of them are like get 6 kills either on your own or as a platoon, that sort of thing. I think because it allowed the platoon aspect, it encouraged people to platoon up. New friends were made, clan systems were formed, all this sort of stuff just came out of people wanting to try and do a mission. Now, if contracts have the same popularity, could this be an opportunity to further friendships and kind of encouragement for players to work together within the game?
Honestly, I think that as long as there are no technical limitations on how you can build the contracts, I don't see why not. Honestly, something along the lines of, I don't know, you have a specific merc tank that you can only do if you're platooning with a friend or with someone that's new. I don't know, let's say a merc recruitment contract, kind of, that you basically get someone that's, I don't know, at let's say 50 battles, and you bring him up through the contract stages until you basically get the tank. So that would be that's a good one. That's a good one.
Actually, that'd be cool because you could actually do a merc tank that's only achieved by helping others.
Good.
And you call it the tutor or whatever. It doesn't really matter about the actual tank itself, but the premise just means people see you in game, they know that you're someone who is likely to help someone out.
Yep. It could actually be that PZ1C cool with the BT7 ART. BT7 RT turret.
Is that just so that you can help people out and get
Yes. Ideally get multiples.
Yeah, let's the controversial thing would just be to say, okay, just reskin it and release it as another one.
I don't think that it would get to that point.
Do you think we could ever see merc crews created by decision-based gameplay? So obviously with War Stories, there's multiple chapters, and obviously at the presentation I went to, they talked about how the idea is the world that you go into is almost actually influenced a little bit by the decisions that were had to be made in some of the earlier war stories and the war stories coming. But it'd be really cool to see a crew system where a crew guy was actually designed based on these sort of things. You know, like, should he have done something risky and taken extra damage that he didn't have to take? Does he get a scar? You know, just silly little things that just allow you to create a sort of unique crew based on your own actions.
So I think that might be beyond the current state of the art, but I'll be honest, that would be really nice to have, but it's might be tricky. So
yeah, because I know some games have similar things, and I just think it'd be like a really cool thing of, you know, you get people sat around. It's almost like comparing like Pokemon or something. Oh, what did you get? Oh, mine looks like this. If you see, oh, look at my guy, he's got this on him. You know, just basically just like a load of random things that can be spliced together. You know, different hat. Everyone loves a good hat.
Mine has no scars, so
there has to be a fez. One of them has to be has to have a
no,
fez.
no. Like what's the name of it in English? A bowler's hat
and a bow tie. Oh, yeah. There's big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be interesting. Anyway, so what do you think that Merc Tanks brings that would appeal to players who've either been taking a break or have recently decided to drop the game for a while? What is there that you think, you know, is bringing them back?
So I see it mainly as it's a new way to work towards a new vehicle that's completely different from the normal tech tree grind or the usual earn ops, something that has an extra layer of challenge to it. So this also kind of means that it's not necessarily for everyone, but then that's why the lower tier Merc tanks exist. So those are more accessible to the average guy like me. The higher tier ones, I'm pretty sure that, for instance, you and Sins are going to look at it and go, let's give it a go. Although I did look at the contract details for that one and I was...
Some of them seem a bit difficult.
Yes. Well, again, for me, it is borderline impossible.
Right. And bringing it to an end, I'm sure you'll be glad to get back to work.
No!
But does the Merc tank system put any groundwork in for anything else? And if so, can you give us any details onto what that might be?
So for now, it's just...
Wink, wink.
I wish. But for now, it's just self-contained. So we'll look into the possibilities once the contract feature is out and once the dust settles on what people think about it, because in the beginning it's going to be either super positive or super negative. There's not going to be much of a middle ground, and give it
bit Marmite,
maybe a month or two for it to mature, and then see how things are, and then see how it can be expanded. Imagine that instead of having an earn-up for a premium tank, that you would get a specific contract for one of those premium tanks. Or one thing that I like that Ships is doing is although their earn-ups, in my opinion, are actually too easy for the premiums, because I got the Atlanta. Actually, no, I got all the five, let's say, missions on the American cruiser crates. That it was basically 5,000 base XP, and you could get an Atlanta, a Kid, so a tier 4 cruiser, a tier 7 cruiser, a tier 8 DD, another tier 7 DD, a tier 6 DD, and a Cleveland. So
I think obviously there's the Indianapolis one for those World of Warships people out there at the moment. And I know the personal missions people keep getting for premium tanks. I think my mate recently got a Sims, and he literally laughed at how easy it was to get, and it took him about 5 or 6 games.
That's the one. So I basically unlocked all of them at the same time. So which was kind of annoying because I had all of them. Well, no, I actually didn't have the Monaghan, but the other 4 I had all of them. So and
well, as usual, we managed to get off topic.
Yes,
that was great.
Well, it's off topic to the original purpose, but then there is the very minor matter that there was the announcement.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I could tack on to the end of this. So for those of you who have been dedicated to listen to over 40 odd minutes of me and Carb1de rattling on about something.
Yeah, the ones who are still awake.
There is it's a small announcement, not much. It's not very big. It's not a big deal. It's just that they've finally announced World of Warships on console. I've tweeted about it. I shall post it onto my Facebook page, and I will leave a link in the description down below for going to the alpha sign-up page, should any of you be interested. So, yeah, good times for console ahead. Lots of things coming, really. And, of course, I'd like to thank you very much, Carb1de, for taking some time out of your day. I know you were desperate to be back.
Well, not really. I'm more desperate to see how Portugal is doing.
Oh yeah, I forgot the World Cup.
Yeah, because we were winning like once. Never mind. No, because I already had one of. So right now it's only me and another guy were the last surviving Portuguese at the EU office, and he was earlier poking me saying, "We're actually not playing bad this time." So.
Yeah, no, I did laugh that Ronaldo accepted was it like an £18 million fine or whatever euro fine from the Spanish government, and then the next day puts
no. It wasn't the next day. It was the same day.
Oh, same day. Same day. Sorry.
That one was finally. But that's so. We should prep. Get ready for the follow-up video because we're going to talk about football for 3 hours.
Yeah. Right, so thank you very much, Carb1de. Obviously, I need to let you get back to work.
Don't worry. Thank you for your time.
Your favorite thing.
Yeah, thank you for setting this up, and thank you for the patience, Jack.
No worries. And thank you everyone for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. If you've got any more comments, leave them in the questions. That was incredible English. Any more questions, leave them in the comments. Oh God.
And we'll try to work something out.
Yeah, we'll try and get another one of these done. It'd be great to be able to do something like this every 3 months or something. I think weekly assault that the Wargaming NA can keep that, because having watched them, I think sometimes they have to struggle to think of new things to say. I know the game has a lot of updates, but I think weekly is probably a bit much. And of course, if you have any information that you need answering, obviously I can't. Feel free to go on Discord or Twitter and bug the hell out of Carb1de. That's what he's there for.
Damn it. Yeah. But yeah, you can try. You're not going to get anything from me, but you can try.
Yeah, you'll get points for trying. Yeah. The points can't be spent on anything, but they're points nonetheless.
Well, or can they? Who knows?
The Wargaming Funfair. Yep. Roll up. You've earned 20 points. Bugging Conway. Oh. Here, have a teddy bear.
I actually like that. So I'm gonna talk to the CMs. Maybe we can set up something.
God, they're gonna hate me.
No worries.
I'm going to another wargaming event, and I'm just gonna get slapped in the back of the head on a regular basis and not know who did it. Just a bunch of wargaming staff stood there with their arms crossed, staring at me
with face masks and going,
"My bad."
Yeah.
Oh, right. So, thank you very much, and as always, I shall see you on the battlefield.